Let's hope it rolls our way through. All right, so we're talking about the eye. If you're going there in our textbook, oh, I beat Hannah to it today. She doesn't have her textbook out ready to go. She's normally my page number lady. Where are we at in the textbook? Thank you, 289. Appreciate it, favor. 289. Shh. And if you were going through the senses that we've done so far, perhaps you've noticed that we started with the most simple, your smelling, and we've moved to the most complex, your vision. And please understand that from a biochemical perspective, what I'm giving you about how the eye works is the super glossy, very surface level of how this piece works. We can actually trace how the biochemicals change in the receptors when light hits them. And it's this big, huge, long process. As a matter of fact, Michael Behe, who was a biochemist from Lehigh University, talks about that whole cascade that happens when light hits these receptors to allow you to actually see. And he calls it irreducibly complex. He says, if you move any of the pieces out of that whole chain, the system stops working. So therefore, the whole chain needs to be present at once in order for it to work. And this is an argument he gives for creation versus evolution, that this system needs to be all set up together. There's some difficulties with it, but I like the thought that, boy, I have a hard time going from just a one single-celled something to this complex eye that we deal with. It's quite impressive. So let's talk about the eye. You've got a bunch of accessory structures that are aiding the eye in its function as well as protecting it. So, because again, of all of our senses to lose, I would suggest vision is probably the most detrimental. We rely on it significantly for all that we do. Can you live without sight? Absolutely. Can you thrive without sight? Absolutely. But it certainly presents you with a lot of difficulties, right? So some visual accessory organs. The eyelid is the first one that is literally just protecting the eye. And it is made of super thin skin. As a matter of fact, they call it the thinnest skin of the body, right? Which, I mean, it really is. If you play, I mean, if you feel your eyelid, I mean, there is almost nothing there. It is a very, very small layer epithelial tissue. But again, very, very important. And that's lined with this conjunctiva that, again, is just adding moisture, protection to that eye. Again, here's your picture so you can see the different pieces of the eye that are present there. Your lashes, the cornea, we'll get into more detail there, but there's the conjunctiva, again, that inside lining inside your eyelid. Conjunctivitis, have you all ever heard of that before? You all call it pink eye. Okay, that would be inflammation of that area. Okay?
Is that the eyelash on the top too? Or is that
This is eyebrow up here. Yeah.
What's the, like, proposing behind the...
Here?
No, the middle. Like the middle circle.
This guy here?
No, behind it. Yeah.
That's a lens. There's more we'll talk about. Shh, shh, shh. Stay with me, guys. Lots to do today. Shh. The lacrimal apparatus. Do you all know the lacrimal? Like, what do the lacrimal glands do?
Oh, that's your tear gland.
Your tears, right? So the lacrimal apparatus, they lubricate your eye. That's what this moisture in your eye does. I have very dry eyes. Every day I put drops in my eyes to help them stay dry. If I get tired, this is how my wife knows without even just simply looking. I have dry eyes, very dry. So I put drops in them. To keep them, did I say dry? Sorry. To keep them wet, to keep them moisturized. Yes, because they get too dry. If I'm tired and my eyes get super red, and that's when you know I need to go sleep. Yes?
Interesting thing that I heard the other day was the reason why like we rub our eyes when our eyes are tired or irritated in our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Shh.
Absolutely. You're trying to wash it away, basically. Yeah, flush it out. Absolutely. It's well done. Those glands actually drain into your nose. You actually have, on this inside portion, the very medial portion of your eye, there's two little ducts, two little tubes that go from your eyes down into your nasal passages. So that's why when you cry, what happens to your nose? Your nose runs. You could, right, it could travel up that tube. Yes, it's one way. Shh. Now, truthfully, normally it doesn't travel that way. It's a very small tube, but it could, certainly. Yes. Those tears also have antimicrobial pieces. They're actually meant to help keep your eyes from getting infected.
What is the main cause of the
That there's some sort of bacteria that's gotten into the eye from rubbing it. Usually it's from touching your eyes. Sure. We all should wash our hands more. Absolutely. Yeah, certainly. But it doesn't mean because you got pink eye you're suddenly dirty or something. No. Shh, 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 shh. Yes? Shh. Yes. Because the salt concentration is not very high. Yeah, it's not super high. It's the environment your eye is used to. That little bit of saltiness helps with the antibacterial pieces. But when you look in the ocean, it's significantly higher salt content. So yeah, that burns like crazy. Yeah. We have these extrinsic muscles that move your eye in lots of different directions. And you can see that, right? If you hold your head still, right? Don't move your head. You can look to the right. You can look to the left. You can look up. You can look down. You can go in little circles with your eyes and make yourself dizzy. Yeah. These are the muscles. Now, you don't have to know these. This is not something I'm going to test you over. But can you see that basically there's muscles on top, muscles on the side, muscles on the bottom? And so if these top muscles contract, what way is your eye going to look? Upward, right? If I shorten this, it's going to go up. Yes. You do not. No. I don't know. I mean, you should be comfortable there are muscles that move your eyes, but the names and where they're located, no. No. Okay. Yes, sir. Why do you tear up? I don't know the answer to that one. Yeah, there's a lot of yawning is suggestive. If I say don't yawn, I mean there are a number of you, or even just talking about yawning, kind of makes you want to yawn, right? Yeah. Good. Shh, shh, shh. Stay with us, guys. Shh, shh. Go ahead, Eric.
I've had surgery on both my lateral and medial rectus.
Oh yeah, to help correct it. Okay. I don't know if you all heard what he said. He said that he's had surgery on both the lateral and the medial rectus, the muscles in his eye, to help correct that piece. Yeah. For me, I wear glasses. I have actually better than 20/20 vision. I have very good vision. But I wear glasses because when I read, my lens doesn't shape, it doesn't move as well. We'll talk more about lenses in a minute. But the muscles in my eyes have to do more moving to let me read. Excuse me. Hello, it's Nathan. Okay, I'll send her down. Bye. Lauren, I need you downstairs. So yeah, that's my glasses actually just let my eyes not have to work so hard. So to make the go, please, yeah. It's fine. Please, quick. Nothing of excitement. All right, let's continue. Please. Please, yeah, it's fine. Yeah. You can pull the desk over if you want. That's fine. Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Why don't you just do here? All right, my friends. Let's talk about the structure of the eye. This diagram's on which page there? 291, thank you. This is a diagram you have to be comfortable with, okay? Because this is giving you basically all the structures that let us actually see. All we've talked about so far, those are all the accessory structures, right? To protect your eyes, to keep them moisturized. This is how we actually see are through these structures. It is, completely. You'll see when we cut up this cow eye tomorrow. There is fluid. Yep. And it's more jelly. Yeah, it's great on toast, or at least that's what Shrek says. So, yeah. Stay with me, my friends. Whew. Y'all are talkative today, which is good. Eyes are good. Fun to talk about. We've got kind of these three distinct layers that an eye is. You have a question? Yeah. The vitreous humor? Uh-huh. They're just showing you the inside of the eye, which has that kind of reddish hue to it. The vitreous humor is actually clear. It's just like a jelly fluid there. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the outer. The outer tunic, or the outer layer, has a transparent cornea at the front of the eye, and then the whites of your eyes is called the sclera. So if we're looking at this picture again, the cornea is this very outside layer that's clear, and that's on the very front of your eye. And then the whole rest of the eye, the outermost layer, is what we call the sclera. Okay? The optic nerve, which is, of course, the cranial nerve that carries the sensation of you seeing to your brain, that attaches into the posterior part of the eye. It actually goes right through the sclera into the back of the eye. Excuse me. They're actually looking at a different part. They're looking at the retina on the inside. We'll talk about that. Yes. Shh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Yes. So a contact is just simply another lens that you're putting right along this front part. It's sitting on top of the cornea. Because for whatever reason, their lens or their eye is not making the light come in a way that they can see clearly. So again, there's lots of different ways those lenses work. My wife, for example, she has one far-sighted eye and one near-sighted eye. So she, I don't know if you ever looked at, those of you who wear contacts or wear glasses, they have a plus or a minus number on them. She has a big plus number on one eye and a big minus number on the other eye. Yeah, when she wears her glasses, she's got one big eye and one. If it wasn't for, she's a very unique case. Her eye doctor, she had glasses from the time she was tiny. He's like, wow, it's amazing that you can still see as well as you can, because her brain has to deal with these two totally different vision pieces. So without her glasses, we always tease her, she doesn't know it's me. It's like, no, I'm Nathan. Hello, yes, I'm your husband. Hello, yeah. All right? Optic nerve. Okay, so now we're into the middle. So outer layer is the sclera or the cornea, right? Cornea is on the very front. Sclera is the whole rest of the eye, the white of the eye. Sir?
Does the optic nerve go straight through the middle of it, or does it just attach on the back?
No, it just attaches to the back. So it's like back here. But it pierces, they say, like going through that sclera. The middle layer has what we call the vascular tunic. What does vascular mean? Heart, okay. Blood vessels. Yeah, absolutely. So that's where the circulatory area is in the eye. And it has three parts: the choroid coat, the ciliary body, and the iris. So the choroid coat is where the blood vessels are, and it's very darkly pigmented. It's a very dark look. If you look at it tomorrow, you'll see it's very dark in color. Sorry? Sure. Well, it nourishes the inside. That's what the blood vessels are for. But it also keeps the inside of the eye dark. Why do we want the inside dark? So when the light comes in, it hits the reflectors, right? Not the reflectors, the receptors. If it's always bright inside there, those receptors would always be firing. They'd be all freaked out. Welcome back. Wait, what? That's where I thought you were supposed to go. That was Mrs. Thompson who called, so I would say head back down there and see if you... I don't know. Yeah, please. Okay, continuing on. Continuing on. That's the choroid coat. So again, if we're looking back at the picture, that's the red layer, the red middle layer. Are y'all with me? If we move on to the ciliary body. So the ciliary body forms a ring around the front of the muscles, and it carries the ciliary muscles as well as the suspensory ligaments that keep the lens in position. And the lens also changes shape depending on whether you're looking at something close to you or looking at something further away. And those are contained in that ciliary body. We call that lens's ability to change shape, we call that accommodation. Because that's what we're doing. Again, if you look at your hand really close in front of you here, about a foot away from your eyes, and then look at the other side of the room, and look back and then up. Can you tell there's that moment or two where your eyes have to adjust for you to be able to see? What that's doing is literally your lens in your eye is changing shape so that the light coming in now, you can see it differently. It's exactly like a camera focusing. You're exactly right.
Like the most HD camera of all time.
Right. It's a way better camera than anything we've ever produced. You're correct. Yeah. The last piece in this middle layer is what we call the iris. The iris is thin, smooth muscle that adjusts the amount of light that comes in. The iris is the part of your eyes that everybody likes. That's the color part of your eyes. Okay, one second. The point of that, though, is to control how much light comes in and out. Okay? That iris changes shape. It gets larger, it gets smaller, which the inside, the very middle of that iris, we call the pupil. Right? You've all heard of that before. The pupil is not a structure. Hear me, guys. The pupil is not a structure. The pupil is just a hole in the iris. Does that make sense? The dark circle in the middle of your eye, there's no structure there. It's just simply the hole in the middle of the iris. Yes? Shh. It's actually a reflex. When they bring the light into your eye and it closes. If you have a head injury, if ever you watch these doctor shows, they always wave the light because they want to see, is that reflex. You don't think about, oh, I need to close my eyes to keep the light in. It's a reflex. But if that doesn't work, they know, ooh, something is really not right with that cranial nerve. I honestly don't know how they do that. I would think that they would have to put some sort of layer on top of that. So they'd have to certainly remove the cornea to get down inside onto the iris, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. Shh, shh, shh.
Don't you think like I need to squint?
Sorry?
Don't you think like I need to squint like
So you can consciously do some things to help control.
But as far as like your
That quick reaction, no, that's just reflex. Yeah, that's just reflex. Right. What you're trying to do is you're trying to use some of your muscles, you're trying to use your eyelashes to help filter some of that light out. That's what you're trying to do. Shh. Stay with me, guys. Can you see this picture? And this picture is there on page 293. It's showing you how the lens changes shape. Remember, that's called accommodation. How the lens changes shape. When it's thin or when it's thick, that will give you different viewings, different pictures there. The anterior chamber. So there is a place, if I go back to the eye, there is a space that is from the cornea back to the iris. This front part of your eye is what we call the anterior chamber. And that chamber is filled with fluid. And that fluid we call the aqueous humor. Aqueous means what? Like water. It's a very watery fluid, right? The vitreous humor, which is what fills up this posterior cavity, is much more jelly-like. It's thicker. And you'll see that tomorrow. When we cut open this eye, you'll see that there are differences between those two kinds of fluid. Does that make sense? Right. Vitreous means thick. Yeah, like it is viscosity, right? Same root. Sir?
the aqueous humor, there's like purpley color and then there's like more green color. Is it the whole thing?
Yeah, they don't really. The point is that the aqueous humor is the fluid that fills up that space between the cornea and the iris. That's really what they're showing there. Yep. Good. Let's keep going. We're into the inner tunic now. Remember, we started outside. with the cornea and the sclera, right? The white part of your eye and the clear part in the front. We moved into the vascular layer, right? With a choroid coat that has all the blood vessels. Also contains the iris. And then now we're into the inside, which is mostly, or the most important. This is what the part of your eye that's actually doing the work of seeing. And that inside layer we call the retina. And when you go to the eye doctor and they want to look really close into your eye, that's what they're looking at. They're looking to see how that retina looks. Are there any defects? Are there any growths there? Is there something wrong on the inside? Because that's where all the receptors are. That's where all the receptors that allow you to see. Now, what kind of receptors are these guys? Are they mechanoreceptors? Nah. Now, are they chemoreceptors? Nah, they're photoreceptors. These guys are actually, when light hits them, that causes the signal to be sent. Right. What I was is cut off. The visual receptors, the two kinds of receptors we have are rods and cones. Okay? The rods and the cones. Rods are much more sensitive to light. The rods are what you have more on your peripheral vision. These guys produce black and white. So these are the things that, when you're walking at night and something moves to the side, the cones are what sense that, right? Excuse me, not the cones, the rods are what sense that. They're black and white vision.